Basically, when this was farmland, one of the things they raised here was cranberries. And so you need to like flood the bog to harvest cranberries. And so I think they were building a water retention area to catch more water to flood the bog, which is down below. I'm sure the Native Americans also had a name for these kinds of rocks here because they're quite distinctive. they kind of view it as being a special place. This also faces west. This is one of the prime directions of Native American culture. They believe that there was a god of the east, a god of the north, the south, and the east, and the great god of the southwest. And they believed that when they died, their spirits went to the great god of the southwest. And so they would bury them with their heads in that direction. And it's believed that as the glaciers were melting, there was a big ice jam in the lower Thames River. And that big lake goes up behind that. This gully really continues all the way up to the submarine base, the bottom end of the submarine base. And it's believed that as that lake, the ice dam finally blew out on this part of it, there was a giant torrent of water which came down here and removed all the smaller rocks and finer materials. It's a common phenomenon these days in the Himalayas and parts of the Andes. And the geologists call that a gloff. Glacial lake outflow flood, gloff. You can check it on YouTube. You'll see lots of them, and they can be very dangerous. It's hard to notice now, but you just see it farther down. We just kind of walk through here. There's areas of stacked rocks. Up until fairly recently, all stone structures in the woods here were colonial by definition, almost. But in fact, although Native Americans did not build their homes out of stone, they did have their ceremonial places that involved the landscape and the arranging of stone and stone structures. And the alignments are important to Native Americans because they have to track. They didn't have watches, and so they had to rely on the sun. But this here, these sites really were just made famous really by a group of people locally. There was a couple that lived up at the upper end of North Gungywamp Road, and they kind of organized a bunch of people of an archaeological perspective, and that became the Gungywamp Society. They have since disbanded. They used to do their tours here. They did a bunch of research. The artifacts that they found went to the Yale School of Archaeology, so they're down there. And they wanted to call this here the Tomb Chamber. And I've heard people call it the Medicine Man Chamber. And there's two chambers here. Both of them face east. The rising sun. Of the southwest, the Kiva, which is a cylindrical chamber, with a flat roof. Oh, yeah. we do have that astronomical alignment down there, and as Stonehenge is an astronomical observatory, we can't discount that as a possible function of this. I'm not quite sure how it works though. I haven't figured that out. But one thing I find kind of curious, you know, the Pequots and the Mohegans are different clans of the same tribe, and it's believed they arrived back in this area around 1500. And they may have come from the upper Hudson Valley around the time of the Iroquois Confederation, as I've read. And each of them has their own clan totem animal. The Mohegans, if you went to the Mohegan Sun Casino, you'd see that their clan totem animal would be the wolf, of course. You walk around the casino, there's the big animatronic wolves looking down, you know. And if you went to the Nantucket preschool, it's built in the shape of a giant snapping turtle. When you look at the ring here, it kind of has a certain look to it, you know. Simeon Adams was the guy who went to Mystic, and there's a part of Mystic Seaport called Adams Point now, and that was where he had a business creating salt from salt water. Salt was very important. So they get wood and they would boil the water and get the salt. Wow. You needed salt, you know, didn't have refrigeration. Yeah. When Roger Williams was establishing Providence, you know, and he learned the Manitou word and the Manitou stones, these may well have been standing stones at one time, and again, no trees, and so you can see other boulders on other ridges, and that way Native Americans, they could keep, it was basically their watch, their calendar, for keeping track of what time of year it was. You know, because they would do the sun is behind that stone over there, and then it rises behind that stone just on the first day of spring. Or you know, that's how they would keep track of what time of year it was and when to plant.
Howdy, Possum Patty. Little Miss TT is here, and I hope you enjoyed the mystery of the Gungywamp. There's strange things in the woods in Connecticut. Well, I'm about to go over to the bookshelf over there and get my little golden book spring journal and finish it up. I have one journaling card to make and the Gungywamp page. Come on along. So here we have all my journals that have been completely journaled in on these 3 shelves right here. And I feel a sense of accomplishment whenever I get one completely journaled in, finished and put on the shelf. And in 2023, I did finish this really huge monster Christmas in July journal, and there's a flip through on that. And I also finished a little golden book, The Colors of Winter journal, and there is a video of a flip through on that. Last year I completed several journals. I have this October journal made with a Harry Potter box, and a Wonders of Nature journal, and Hello Autumn journal. I think I finished last year. Probably finished these other ones too. This was a summer journal, fall journal, nature journal, another fall journal, and a garden journal up there. And then all these other journals are from the year before. And that was my first year of junk journaling up there. So now I am working on the journals on this shelf. And I did start another couple of little golden books. This is going to be a memory keeper of the farm, and this is going to be just a memory keeper of grandparents. I've got a glue book, and I might change this one. This one I was just putting pets in, but that's not really working for me. I might just turn it into a daily journal, and then I have my magic mushroom journal. And then this journal was gifted to me by Rhonda, Junk Journal Diva, and that can turn into anything. Oh, I thought maybe early fall would work with that because I have my haunted house for October. And this is my summer beach journal I started last year. And this is my Tea Tuesday journal. That is also a little golden book, a little bit different style though. And this is my Dirt Road Diary, my rock learning journal, and my family notes journal. And this is my summer journal that I started the other day. And this is my spring journal that I need to finish up. Look how chunky this is. So full of fun. Starting off with a portrait that I embroidered on. So many different pages with happy mail and memories and daily journaling and garden journaling. This is a memory page. And adventures. So many different things going on here. Holidays, nature journaling. In this journal, I chose not to journal on the actual story pages, so the whole story is complete and in order, intact. Adventures and more happy mail and more adventures and just nature journaling. So I am good up until this page. Now I'd made this page about peeps. We did some marshmallow peep taste testing. But you know, it's kind of lonely with just this one little tag and this great big pocket. So I wanted to tell a story of Mr. Possum and the chickens. So I figured I can, chickens, peeps, right? Goes together, no problem. This one's got little peeps on a tag. They keep sticking together. I'm going to have to rub a little bit of powder on those, keep them loose. And then we have Mother's Day with the little green monster. And lots of Mother's Day stuff going on here. Nature journaling. And events that are happening. And more nature journaling and rock hounding. And the very last page is this purple page. So this will be the Gungywamp page. And this book will be done. So I figured I would do the chicken page first. You may remember I made this journaling card. I had gotten this stamp and I stamped it on a paper and then I put it in my printer, which is also a copier, and I enlarged it and I colored it in, and I glued it down on this chicken wire paper background. This side has chickens on it. So I went through my slightly organized bag of farm ephemera that I'm using in that farm journal I showed you, but that doesn't matter. I can use it for this too. And this, I had gotten Simple Stories, a Peachy Cheap. Actually, I had two Peachy Cheaps. One was Howdy, sort of a Western, and one was Farm. And the little ephemera come in these little packs like this. And this has a picture of everything that's in there. And I thought I would cut that out and sew it on here as a pocket. And then I took a chicken and just this, I don't know, just a little ticket there and this little heart. And I don't know why this butterfly is floating around, but maybe he'll go somewhere. I think he just fell out of the pack. When I also have this piece of material left over from something, a nice rooster on there. Or I could put these on the little, I'm going to make a little card to actually journal on and put that in the pocket on the journaling card. I love when people do that, when they put little pockets on tags and journaling cards. I love that idea, so I'm stealing that idea from several different people. All right, first things first, I'll decide what I'm going to do on the rest of the card after I get this pocket on there. And so I'm going to cut this out and see how it's going to fit. Maybe I can get that green line in there. Oh, and you know what? I like this too. Simple Stories. Simple Stories. TT's playing with a toy. I don't know if you can hear her. Because that's what this is. This is a simple story. And you know, adventures are fun, but simple story, it's the simple stories that are going to be remembered. It's the simple things that happen that we need to write down and make sure that those stories do live on. So I'm thinking that simple stories could be like a tab on the page. I don't have too many things sticking out, do I? on this journal because of the elastic that I put around it. But you know what? I put the elastic on from the bottom because I always have things poking out the top. So I can put this up here. Yes, I want to put this in here. I didn't think about it till I just saw it. The more you do, the more ideas you get, I'm telling you. When I was looking for a chicken to put on this card, and I came across the little pack that it came in, which is here somewhere. Lost it already. Oh, it's way under. Okay. That... You know, I wouldn't have thought of like, I'm going to go in there and look for some packaging. I was like, no, I'm going to go in there and look for a chicken. And then I was like, oh, that would be cute to put on there and use that, the packaging. And then I took out the chicken. And then when I was cutting this and I cut off Simple Stories, I'm like, well, that would be cute to use. I just love mixing up, like, you know, journaling scrapbook paper that you buy with paper that I've made with trashy items. Wow, I had that upside down too. Let me get a clip. And I'm going to put this right there. Simple stories are the best. Okay, distracted by a tiny little tab. Back to the job at hand. And I need to trim this down some more. I'm checking my camera. Well, I didn't measure this or marked it. I eyeballed it, and it came out like almost perfect and a little bit smaller, but that's okay. All right, I'm going to go to the machine and stitch around. I might stitch around the whole card because there's not much on this side. Oh, you know, I could have put that Simple Stories tab right here at the top. That's okay, I have no tabs on the pages, and I like to use tabs. I might want to do something up here. You know, and if I'm going to do something, I should do it now before I go sew. So let me see. I'll make it roundy. Roundy, roundy, roundy. Let's see. Too small. Perfect. It doesn't have to be exact. See, I was going to cut the corners square, but I think I'll cut them round. I think I need to come down just a little bit. Just make sure I'm not cutting off one of the chickens. Okay. And I might have to, do I want to distress this too? I could even use brown, just a little bit. I've got blue. What do I have on the desk? I got blue, I got brown, I got black. I'm thinking brown would go with the chicken wire there. It's all gold. Yeah, I like that better. And you know, I don't do a lot of distressing, do I? No, I don't. But every once in a while, I'm like, something needs to be there. Something needs to be there. Yeah, see? Much better. I don't think the brown will look good on this side. She says as she puts brown. But I don't know, it kind of goes with that peachy color background there. Not a lot, just a tiny, tiny little bit. And you know what? Maybe even on here. Okay, get over to the machine. I think I'm going to run a stitch all the way around here a few times before I sew the pocket on. And I'm just going to use whatever thread is in there. I'm not going to change the color. Now, if you don't sew, but you want to decorate around the edge, you can just take a magic marker and make dash, 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 dash. Faux stitching. Faux stitching works very well. And now I'm going to sew on the pocket. And I'm just going to put a few little paper clips here to kind of hold it in place. Try not to knock it about when I start sewing. Like that. I wrote the whole story on this recipe card, which I trimmed down a little bit so it'll fit in the pocket. And if you don't remember that story, I will read this to you quickly. This happened on our green, the village green in Canterbury. And I believe this was back in May. And we were turning the corner at Route 169 and I spied several chickens in the road. And these chickens are usually over at the green in front of the church, happily pecking away at the grass. Well, I yelled to Tom, who was driving, that's Mr. Possum, to watch out. And after seeing them safely cross the road and we continued on our way, Tom asked me, why did the chickens cross the road? And I answered, to get to the other side. Seriously now, did he just ask me that? Makes me laugh every time I think of it. So this is going to go into here. But I'm looking at my rooster now, and I'm thinking I can probably put that right there and glue that down onto my story. I could have a little bit of material just sticking out all around like that. Now that didn't rip very straight. Well, that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. That's my bird clock. It is the American Robin o'clock right now. And I love using this Elmer's Craft Bond Extra Strength Glue Stick for material. It usually works really well for me, usually. And you don't even have to like iron the material. You just smooth it down on top of this glue stick. And it comes out really nice. I know I just got glue everywhere there. But I wanted to make sure I got some on the edge. I want to make sure I get as much of that rooster in there as I can. I love the way you can see the lines right through that white part. Makes it look like the ticking, you know, that gray and white ticking sometimes they use with farm decorations. So I have my story all written down. I've got my pocket ready. I want to give this material and that glue stick a minute to dry. But I did take out these little bits here. So I guess I will go ahead and use them. See, now I don't need to decorate this because I used the recipe card with some decorations on it. So, I don't know, I feel like the chicken needs a little bit of something for a background. Okay, I got out my scrap box. And I can put something, I've got craft paper. something like that. Oh, look. Farmer's Almanac from 1964. Well, how perfect is that? Farmer's Almanac. I didn't even know that was in here. Oh my. Okay, so let me work this out here. Now this is a little vintage, right? Yeah, I'm gonna glue this down. All right, yeah, that gives her a little bit more of a background so that she stands out from the chickens on the paper. I do have these almanacs somewhere. Did I use them all up? I gotta go down to the magical basement now. See if I have any more almanac pages, because you know, those will be perfect in my farm journal, my farm memory keeping journal. Why I am spreading glue with my hands today, I have no idea. I usually use a card. Okay, now I have to get the glue off my hands. Okay, now I am gluing down the ticket and the little butterfly. And I did grab a card. Oh, I can't believe I found a piece of a farmer's almanac to put that chicken on. Serendipity. All right, moving things. Put these back in the scrap box for now. I think I'll put this in the scrap box too. All right, so the story of Mr. Possum and the chickens crossing the road has now been journaled. And that is going to go in the Peeps page. Got my Simple Stories tag on there. And I think this is a little taller than the other one. You can put that one behind. So we got chickens and Peeps. Let me get the powder while I'm thinking of it. It's under the desk. Too much. All right, now if you have sticky pages from acrylic, a glossy paint, or Mod Podge, and you just put a little cornstarch powder on there. It helps them be not sticky. And this is Walmart Pure Cornstarch Baby Powder with aloe and vitamin E. And it is hyperallergenic. Okay, I dusted off my hands a little bit. And we are on to the last page. The Mystery of the Gungywamp. Okay, now, what is the mystery of the Gungywamp? First, let me show you the page. I took some of this very shiny starlit outer space paper and made a pocket. And I took the pictures of the first chamber and the second chamber and the turtle ring of stones and made a question mark. Now I had to sew them on because this is, I don't know, it's just like foil and nothing really sticks to it. So there's my pocket with the Gungywamp mystery question mark. First of all, what is that word Gungywamp? Gungywamp. Well, this whole place is a mystery, so let me just start with the name. First of all, researchers have come up with so many different origins of the name Gungywamp. Some people say that it's like ancient Gaelic, and I'll explain that in a minute, or maybe Mohegan or Pequot or Algonquin, which makes more sense because those are Native American tribes that have been in this area. And the word itself, they think, everything is speculative when it comes to the Gungywamp. It can mean anything from the Church of the People to place of ledges, and we saw lots of stone ledges there, to swampy place, swampy, swamp, or all-powerful, or white. All right, so let's get going again. All right, so you saw me hike through the woods, and this is in New London County, Connecticut. And we were hiking with Al Brown, and the property itself was once owned by the YMCA. There was a camp there, but they sort of went bankrupt, and I believe the state of Connecticut owns the site now. You're not allowed to go out there by yourself at all, but they do hold these informative hikes twice a year. So we went on the spring hike with Al Brown. And, you know, if you Google Gungywamp, you will find stories about it on the History Channel and people trying to get to it on YouTube. It's very popular. And I never even heard of it, and I lived in Connecticut for many, many, many years. All right, so you hike out up to this hillside, and you see we went in early spring, so there's not a lot of foliage, which is when you want to go so you can actually look out and see these formations of stone. Now, Al explained to us that many researchers and archaeologists have come, and each found conclusive evidence to back their theories on who made these stones. Now, the only thing that is written down in a deed is the Adams homestead, and you saw the foundation for the house, and there was fireplace remains and all that. So that is in the record deeds that the Adams lived there. But all the other structures, just very strange on the origins of them. Now, I printed out 2 journal cards. Well, one was a mistake. The first one, I wanted to put in just that it was Sunday, April 16th, and a little bit about Gungywamp, an archaeological site of natural and cultural interest. And you get to explore the rocky ridges and the glacier erratics, because there was a glacier here that dumped a bunch of stones, and there's swamps, and you saw that I found fresh beaver evidence. I didn't see any beavers, but there's fresh beaver evidence. Of course, when you're hiking with a large group of people, the animals tend to scurry away before you can see them. And it says the structures, the use and the origin are open to interpretation because every researcher has come up with a different conclusion. Now you can see that this was, 2.5 hour hike, almost 3 hours. So all of these structures aren't like right next to each other, so I cut out a lot of in-between stuff. But I wanted to show you some of the main interesting things. And this is an article I printed out to read to you some of this information, but I didn't know there was a piece of cardstock in the printer. And when it came out on cardstock, well, one sheet came out on paper and one sheet came out on cardstock. I said, well, I'll just put it in there as a journaling card because it gives a little explanation about it. Now, this was on paper, so I just glued it to the back of the cardstock. And this was in a newspaper article, And it says, a line of large standing stones that are aligned with the North Star are one of the curious sights that are part of the Gungywamp property in Groton. There's this nature center. Now, they're the ones that are in charge of the property right now. And that's who Al Brown does the informative hike for. But it's a very mysterious property. Some say the collection of stone chambers, rocks laying in circular patterns and rows of erect granite slabs are the work of the followers of Saint Brennan, the 6th century Irish monk. So one group of archaeologists say that that way back when Irish monks came to our shores and that these stoneworks were made by the Irish monks back in the 6th century, okay, long ago. And then other people say, no. He said, these remind them of stone structures that the Vikings made. So they believe when the Vikings came to Newfoundland and then came down the shores that there's, like up in New Hampshire, there's some, and then in Connecticut some. So along the shoreline, but inland a little bit, you find these stone works. So the first group say that they're really, really old, back to 6th century Irish monks, and then there's those who say that they're the Vikings. But that wasn't the end of it. It goes on more. And some people believe that the first inhabitants there were actually people coming down from the Arctic because the glaciers came across New England and covered all of Connecticut and then receded. So they thought maybe the Arctic peoples were moving down ahead of the glaciers and then went back after the glaciers receded, or maybe they were wiped out at some point. We don't know. So now we have the Irish monks, we have the Vikings, we have the Arctic peoples, and the Native Americans, all connected to this, plus some colonial evidence there too. And then it gets more mysterious because of the ley lines, and these are lines of energy flowing through the site. Now, in the chambers, and if you listen to Al Brown explain some of this, they face a certain direction, line up with the solstice, and the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And there's this little chamber, and that was the picture where Stanley was on the side of the window there, and they said this is oriented to capture the azimuth of the sun at the fall and spring equinoxes. So a shaft of light shines through into the underground room on the equinoxes. So some of these stone structures that are lined up with directions, north, east, south, and west, and some are lined up with the solstice, and some are lined up with the equinoxes, and mystics have gone there and said that there's these ley lines of energy. So it's all open to interpretation depending on your own interest. Everybody has found something there, and everybody who goes there sees something different. Well, if you're a possum peep, you might remember that I went to Stonehenge for the spring equinox up in New Hampshire. And talking to the man who owned that property, he told me about this property in Connecticut and that I should go visit that one because this is practically in my backyard while I traveled 2 hours to go up to New Hampshire to see the other one. And so when I Googled it, it just happened to be at a time when they were doing their spring walk. So I got into that. Now, when I was up in New Hampshire and I was talking to the owner, he was telling me about the ley lines and the energy. And I was like, oh, I didn't bring my rods. Now, something you didn't know about Possum Patty. Let me get them. I have these 2 copper rods, which I put some tape on the end because Mr. Possum was trying to film me and you couldn't see them because they're just very thin copper rods bent at an angle like that. And basically that's all they are. Now when you walk with these rods, you hold them loosely, one in each hand, and certain types of energy will make them go apart or make them cross over like that. Or if you're in a Voltex, they actually spin around in circles, and I hold it over my head and they just spin around in circles. It's really fun. Now, why do I have these? No, I'm not a mystic. I actually got these at a conservation leadership school because I was an environmental educator. So this is the science behind it and not, not the mystical. But they are pretty mystical. And of course, I didn't believe in divining rods until I was actually given these rods and learned how to use them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is for real. And this leadership school is for high school students. So we gave every student a set of these. And I'm going to tell you, they were quite amazed. And we found all kinds of energy lines and vortexes and underground water streams. There's something to be said about the electromagnetic waves coming off the rocks and the energy of flowing water that creates just these waves of energy. There's waves of energy all over the planet. I mean, that's science. That's not mystic. And of course, rocks are magnetic and they give off magnetic energy. And this is copper. So copper is, you know, your excellent conductor of energy. So, you know, you can actually feel all that energy with these copper rods. Now, if I still have your attention after all that. So when we were going to the Gungywamp, I said, I'm bringing my rods with me because I didn't take them up to New Hampshire. Didn't even think about it, right? So I took my copper rods with me and I was never there before. I didn't know what we're going to see or where everything was laid out. When we got to the first chamber, I went around to the back, sort of, the chamber's kind of like into the hillside a little bit, and I stood sort of like above the chamber a little bit, and I held the rods in my hand, and they wouldn't do anything but point straight ahead. And I thought that this would be like a place of energy that would make them cross or spin around. No, they just pointed straight ahead. I said, okay. So when we got to the second chamber, I realized that the second chamber was lined up with the first. And I'm thinking, well, when I was over here, the energy was this way, right? Towards the second chamber. And when I got to the second chamber, I'm thinking that they're going to still go in that direction, right? So that the energy is going that way. But I was wrong. When I got to the second chamber, the rod spun around and pointed towards the first chamber. So the energy here was going this way, and the energy here was going that way. I'm like, ooh, that's weird. Well, so these were on the hillside. So then we followed the path around up to the top of the hill, like on a ledge. And that's where that turtle was, the head of the turtle, and then the ring of rocks is on a ledge overlooking these two chambers. And he said the head is sort of facing north, right? So I'm thinking, I had to wait for him to finish his little spiel. And then I stood in the middle here. Now I'm thinking, this has to be an energy vortex. I'm expecting these things to spin around. But you know what they did? One rod pointed to the first chamber, and the second rod pointed to the second chamber. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is a triangle. This way. This is a triangle of energy. This one is pointing to this way. This one's pointing that way. And if you stand up here, you get one pointing that way and one pointing that way. I had no clue. I mean, it wasn't in my mind anything specific on the way these rods were going to point. So I was amazed that that's what they did, because I didn't think about that at all, that there would be a triangle of energy. I don't even think I've ever heard of a triangle of energy. So you just learned something new about Possum Patty and her copper rods and discovering energy. So that is the mystery, the origin of these structures, Could be anything from Arctic peoples to Irish monks to Vikings to Native Americans to mystics. Nobody knows. Nobody knows the origin of the name. Nobody knows who built them. But, and this is interesting, this place was referred to in a letter in 1654. And this was a letter to John Winthrop, who was the governor of colonial Connecticut, about a newly discovered stone wall and fort. They called them a fort. If you remember, Al mentioned that the colonials thought that these stone structures were forts, but they're not forts. They're more like ceremonial places because the Native Americans didn't fight from forts. At Gungywamp, the Pequot tribe that lived in the area at the time did not erect stone structures. So the fort, chambers, and other architectural ruins must have been built by other hands. So there's more questions than answers about this property. And Al says, I blame the History Channel because he says every week he gets emailed on people who want to go out and see this place after they watch the History Channel. So wow, that was my amazing, amazing adventure at the Gungywamp. I did have a page in here about America's Stonehenge. Oh, here it is. America's Stonehenge, Explore the Mysteries. That place is very, very similar, but up in New Hampshire. And we went there on the first day of spring for the vernal equinox. All right, so a lot of stories have been told, and there is a video on every single page, but I will do a flip through, and I always wait a while. I like to put the journal on the shelf a couple weeks, couple months, and then take it down and do my flip through. It just makes me happy to flip through it, like after waiting a while, then going back and going, yeah, look at all this. So I want to thank you for coming along on this journaling journey of my little golden book, The Golden Egg Spring Journal. Happy junk journaling. Bye-bye. Let's see if they straighten out and go down here. Get them straight. Everybody straighten up. Straighten up. Oop, no, don't do that. Straighten up. Straighten up. Okay. This one always wants to go wacky. You want to go that way?